to Championship Mode Collective. Yeah, new views. Well, not really new views, but like reverting to old views. If you were here in the first 6 months of the Consulting Diaries, you knew this was our setup. So yeah, decided to do like a throwback. Although the topic is still new, the topic is still fresh. But yeah, welcome. If you're joining us today, thank you. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it to someone that you think might find Championship Mode Collective useful. If you're here for the first time, thank you for dropping by. Hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Championship Mode Collective related. In today's episode, we are discussing mental performance, or mental conditioning, or mental training. You know, it goes by many terms. But basically, mental performance, what it is, what the benefits are, and can it be valuable to someone outside of sports? Kind of like if you're in corporate, if you're still at school, or if you're up and coming athlete or something on the likes. But here we like to talk about everything young professionals, so we're gonna be focused on the tying mental performance to corporate, to your career, to getting a boost in performance. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, mental performance. What is mental performance? And I mean, I don't really have an exact science. I did research over the weekend, and to me, mental performance is just taking care of your mental and emotional state so that you can give your physical form the best chance to succeed, right? And I mean, the easiest thing is to link it to sports, right? Athletes is all about physical work, but as well as mental. If you got the mental going, if you got the physical going, then you can improve your performance, as opposed to if you just got the physical going, right? And because I'm so obsessed with sports psychology, I sit and think to myself, how can I tie this to my career? Or how can I tie this to corporate? Or how can I tie this to being a young professional? Not being an athlete, but a young professional. And so that's why for me, it's about the emotional and mental mindset that you take to work to give you that boost in performance, to give you more energy, and not look at it from a competitive athletic point of view. And I mean, moving on, what are the benefits of mental performance? The first and obvious one is just resilience. You're able to bounce back. You see failures as learnings, as growth opportunities. You also see wins as learnings and growth opportunities. Sometimes it also helps that you have more energy, right? When you take care of your mental state, you have more energy, more focus. I mean, it also lends to self-awareness, right? If you understand what's going on up here, you're aware of who you are in your environment, which just makes you a better person. You are able to create psychological safety in your team. You're able to apply emotional intelligence to situations that people don't see and don't understand. And you set a positive culture, your leadership shines through. And so there are many benefits in applying mental performance to a corporate setting, and I mean, there's people who really like the physical aspect as well, if you like running, if you're jogging, and that also just helps, it keeps your confidence high, keeps your motivation high, your commitment and your dedication just flows through to your purpose, and these are just some of the benefits of mental performance. I've included a few links for you to just click on. Let's reconsider, or let's rethink, can we really tie mental performance to corporate or to a business environment, right? And I think you can, right? I think it's possible. Think about it like, hopefully we all played a team sport when we were growing up, and the people on your team are your colleagues, right? And at the end of the day, you put yourself in a team environment to achieve a certain goal, right? To score more goals than the opponent. In a business is to win that proposal, to be the best known team across your territory or region, or whatever product or service you guys do, right? And for me, that's why I'm able to link it, right? Because it's like, I want to be the best, right? I want to be the best consultant ever. And how does that work? How do athletes look at it, right? Athletes take care of their physical, right? Which we'll get into. Athletes also take care of their mindset, which we're gonna get more into. We're gonna deep dive right into it, right? And by marrying those two, I think it is possible that you can see an improvement in your performance at work. And hence, that's why I think linking mental performance to corporate, definitely possible, definitely worth it. And I'll share a few anecdotes as we go along the way. But let's get into the crux. Just to make the content digestible, I managed to break this out into 10 bits, 10 portions, 10 things to focus on. And in those 10 things to focus on, we describe what they are and how to improve in that element or in that aspect, right? But, it can get a lot. So even if you focus on just 3 or 4, it's much better than not doing anything, right? So the chapters are set, you can click on the specific chapter that you want. When you revisit it, you can click on the specific element that you would like to focus on or revisit. So it's easy to digest. You can remember when you're in a certain situation at work, you're like, oh, boom, let me record this. And then it just makes your day that much better, right? First and foremost, the physical aspect, right? And think of yourself as the vessel, right? And for a vessel to perform, it needs to be great both inside and outside, right? You can't go to work tired, your focus will not be there. You can't go to work sleepy or cranky or any of these personality traits that are not optimal, right? And so it's important to put in that time to take care of your physical wellness, to make sure you're good, you don't fall sick too often. If it does, get medication. How are you healing yourself? Are you moving your body on a regular day-to-day basis? How do you move about? Are you going to the gym? Are you going for a walk around the block? How often do you get fresh air into your lungs? Just, to tell your body that, look, I appreciate you. Let me take care of you, right? And that's the physical aspect. Before we get up here, the outside must work, and it must work well. Otherwise, there'll be a misalignment and you just won't get to that performance, to that peak performance that you need consistently, right? Now, the second element is one of my favorites, and it's something that I was introduced to last year. It's mental imagery and meditation, right? Now, learning about this part that links to mental performance, what athletes like to do is they like to visualize themselves in the championship, winning the finals, whatever, right? And I then sat and I was like, imagine myself after this presentation, or imagine myself after we went to the client and the client was blown away by, how the workshop went, or, delivering for the client, So that visualization at the end, it's like, this is the end product that I want. How do I then make it happen from where I am in the present to the image that I have in my head, right? And so sometimes it's easier. Your performance literally takes a few, not just 1 or 2. If you're able to be like, this is the end goal, this is what I'm aiming for. Because the hard times will come, and when you have that mental imagery, it's like, this is it. This is the gold standard, right? However I'm feeling now, we still remember what the gold standard is. And meditation kind of helps, right? So how I use meditation is just to prep through the day. I sit for like 10 minutes and I'm like, okay, this is what I want out of my day. Where are the blockers? Where are the obstacles? What are the tools that I need? Who do I need to speak to? And I'm doing all of that prep in my mind, right? One thing I learned during my research is you can actually do that prep during, right? And you can also do that prep after. So it's kind of like, okay, during the day that you're going through, you're like, how am I doing so far? Am I matching up to where I should be when I started the day, when I put the outcomes for the day? And after you complete the day, you review the day and you're like, okay, today was not great. Or actually, we knocked the lights out today. This went well, coaching session went well, spoke to my manager, this went well, spoke to the client, this went well, and you kind of like are able to sort of like prep and review those things, right? And meditation can kind of help you with all of those routines, right? So meditation is not for everyone, right? I get that. And that's okay if it's not. You have an imagination, so imagine what you want the final outcome to be and work towards that, right? If you want to try meditation, try it for 1 or 2 minutes, right? Sometimes we have this idea that we have to meditate for like 10, 20, 30 minutes. No, sometimes it's literally like 10 seconds, it's a minute, it's 2 minutes. I meditate for between 5 and 10 minutes. Anything after that, my mind literally just goes all across the place. So I'm just like, all right, let's keep it to 5 to 10 minutes, right? Now, the third element we're gonna look into is routine and habits of excellence, right? Or we can just take routines and habits. Now, you know, there's many books on habit forming, there's many books on routine forming, how to break bad habits, how to form good ones. And pretty much the essence, or how I look at it, is okay, these are the habits that you would like to embody, right? Positive habits, you know, like displaying emotional intelligence, good time management, operating in a structured, disciplined way, right? And what you then do in your present time is you slowly upskill to that habit, right? And it's like, how do I do that? You first choose the habits that you want to form, and then you make a plan to say, okay, if I do this twice a week, if I do this 4 times a week, if I do this 6 times a week, then it'll get to that point where it becomes natural, becomes second nature. You know, for example, like the emotional intelligence thing. If you're like, okay, let me improve my emotional intelligence, let me improve my inclusivity, right? You go to work, you know, maybe sometimes you have your earphones in, you know, maybe you could say, all right, I'm gonna take my earphones out, I'm gonna greet security, I'm gonna greet the ladies at the canteen, the gentlemen at the canteen. On my way into the elevator, I'm gonna wish people a good day. When I go to my desk, I have such a boost, you know. So you're bringing people into your day, you're spreading positivity, and it's not about making yourself feel good. It's about what can that burst of energy do to the people that you've brought in, right? And that's what inclusivity is. What I find with habits and routines is that you have to build consistently. You have to practice consistently rather than trying to get or form a habit very quickly over a short period of time. What makes a habit form, what makes a habit stay, is the fact that you're able to practice, you're able to call on it over a longer period of time, right? And practicing habits is all about consistency over intensity. Element number 4, process over outcomes. Now, you've probably heard this before on this channel, and it's always a new thing for me when I hear it, process over outcomes. Even though we're outcome based, we must focus on the process, right? What does that mean? Or it basically tries to create longevity after you hit the outcome, after you hit the achievement. Because what happens is, when we hit the outcome, when we hit the achievement, we kind of like relax and be like, oh, okay, we've achieved the goal, right? And in corporate, things don't really work like that, because you know, after you hit a deadline, guess what? There's another deadline, and another deadline, and another deadline, right? You have to peak consistently over a longer period of time. And that's why process is important, because it's a journey. It keeps you sane as you chalk off the deadlines over and over and over and over again. Because you can suffer from its fatigue, right? Because it's literally deadline after deadline after deadline. Now, tying it from a personal point of view, right? The one thing that can really help is your goal setting, right? If you and your team have to achieve a goal, you kind of like say, okay, this is the goal we want to achieve. How can we get there? Okay, cool, let's break it down, right? So you break up the goal setting into smaller, manageable processes that sort of like shift the outcomes away. But you also have a scoreboard to keep progress of how you guys are doing. If you don't keep progress, you won't know how well you're doing, you won't know how bad you're doing, you won't be able to adjust, right? So a scoreboard is important. Although it can make you nervous and it can be anxious, right? you need to understand where you are in the journey, even though it's a process, right? And another thing is being smart or being smarter around your technique of process over outcome, right? Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it realistic? Is it time bound? You know, is it engaging? Does it reward you? If we're talking about smarter, right? So process over outcome sounds very simple, but there is a lot that goes into making sure you keep your mind grounded in the present on the process, but make sure that on a day-to-day, all those little actions, all those processes gets to the final outcome. Resilience through your power circle. If you've been here before, you know this is something I'm really fond of, and I recently released an episode on power circle. Check out the link. And the idea is to say, form a power circle, whether it's personal, right? And when we put it in a corporate context, we're talking about your support structure around you, right? The team that you operate in. What is your support structure? Are you able to go to your team lead? Are you able to go to your manager, to help you, to support you in something, to push you in the right track, or to kind of like give you a different perspective, right? That's what we mean by a power circle. So a power circle doesn't just apply personally, you can also apply in a work context, right? But the point is to say you need a structure, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a support structure. Now, forming your power circle can be intentional, and sometimes it can happen naturally, organically, if you're put in a team, friends you work with at work, colleagues that become friends at work, and the likes, right? But practicing it is more about letting your power circle know that they are in your power circle, right? Letting them know they are your support structure, and leaning on them when the time comes, right? Not just hard times, the good times when you celebrate, because it's important sometimes to spread those feelings, to spread that positivity, because that energy boost can just do something to your power circle. Because someone in your power circle might need it. Someone in your power circle is looking up to you, So you have a power circle, you don't have a power circle, start investing in a power circle. And on top of that, once you invest and you start building, lean into your power circle. Okay, moving right along. We're halfway. Just blabbing along. So, element number 6, culture and leadership. Basically setting the culture and leadership tone you would like to see. Now, this one's a bit tricky because sometimes the culture is environmental, right? Which means you found it, or it's so big that you can't really do much about it, right? But that is not the point. The point is to say, for your mental performance, you need a positive culture around you and good leadership, right? Now, this includes self-leadership. This includes the culture you promote, the culture you want to see, right? And if we're being specific about workplace, it starts with things like psychological safety. Do you push psychological safety in your team? Do you push a growth mindset? Maybe you're a manager. Can your reports come to you and say, I have this problem, or I disagree with this feedback, or can I have feedback, right? That's psychological safety to seek a different point of view, and maybe you are the different point of view, right? A growth mindset, where you say, okay, this is a challenge, can we transform it and see it as an opportunity, right? And that's how most proposals work in a corporate workplace. Well, speaking from my experience, right? We speak to a client, they don't really tell us what they want. Sometimes they'll say, this is my challenge, this is what we can't do, can you help us with something, right? And we then sit and say, okay, this is the challenge, what is the challenge out of that opportunity, right? And it all comes from a growth and learning mindset. So culture is this little micro movements that you need, and over time, as you are the positive culture, it then spreads to your environment, it spreads to your colleagues, your support structure, and you start to see a change. Now, leadership is important because you can set a culture for yourself, but what is the impact outside of yourself, right? And that's where the self-leadership, the team leadership, the organizational leadership comes in, where it's like, okay, this is the role you play. You are literally, you have decided that this is the culture you want to push, and so you're going to show it. Or this is the point of view you think the challenge, should be reframed to the client, right? And mentioning reframing, reframing is a skill, especially when you want to change a culture, right? Reframing is sort of like linking to mental imagery. And I reframe myself as a superhero. I reframe myself as a superhero every day, right? Or not every day, but maybe some days, the ones that are hard, right? Where I'm like, okay, cool. This is the task. I need to gather my infinity gauntlet. I need to collect my 6 infinity stones. If you're a Thanos fan, whoop whoop. I need to gather my 6 infinity stones, and make this problem disappear. And sometimes you just get more creative from that type of framing, right? But framing is much deeper than that. There are many different layers of framing, and it's something that you can look into. Just before we move on, with regard to culture, mentioning psychological safety and growth opportunities, in one of my previous videos, Surviving the Dark Side of Consulting, Thriving in Consulting, I go in depth in detail on psychological safety and a growth mindset. So check those out if you think they'll be valuable to you. An ability to reset. I think this is my favorite, because what happens at corporate is, you're going through your day and then boom, you read an email or you hear someone say something or you get some feedback, and that's it, right? Your day is wrecked, ruined. You can't think, you can't focus, you want to leave the office, right? And then sometimes you can carry on to the next day, and then this other day after that, and you find out that maybe it's a Monday or Tuesday, and now your whole week is ruined, right? The ability to reset for me is really powerful, because what it means is, although we take each day in the process to reach the outcome, we treat each day on its own. And what that means is, if we experience a challenge or something negative in the day, we can frame that day and say, okay, cool, today was not a good day, I'll try again tomorrow. I didn't do this right, I'll try again tomorrow. And that ability to just take a new day, or to take a new hour, or to take a new moment, kind of like saves your week or saves your day, right? And for me, what I do is I like to leave my desk if I've received feedback that I don't like, for example, or I need to do something that I didn't account for, right? And you get frustrated. I literally just move away from my desk, maybe go to the other part of the business to speak to a friend, just to catch up, to check in, 5 minutes something, or I go outside. When I'm working from home, I take a 5-minute break where I just sort of sit and breathe, right? Just enjoy the sun, just look outside the sky, people watch across the balcony, and all of that. And what those forms of physical breaks do is they actually get your body, they get your mind to your mental baseline, right? So that when you sit down again, or when you decide to tackle the issue again, it's like, okay, cool, we can do this, let's go. Let's take it from square one. What is the issue and how do we solve it? And for me, the ability to reset is one of the most powerful things I've learned, and it's literally helped me save days that should not have been saved, right? It's helped me save projects. It's helped me just save my performance in crucial moments. And for me, it's my favorite. And if there's something that I think you should start with, I think the ability to reset is just powerful. You're probably asking, well, if it's so important, why didn't you start with the ability to reset? And unfortunately, it takes practice, it takes time to get there, right? And all the previous steps that I mentioned feed into that, right? Your mental capacity, your ability to visualize, meditating, focusing on process, understanding your physical state when you're in good condition, right? So that when you need to reset, sometimes it's not even a conscious clue. It's like, oh snap, I feel tired, or oh snap, there's a break in my energy. Let me just step away for a minute, and if we didn't go through all these other steps, you would not identify these cues as moments for you to reset. All right. So that is why the ability to reset is up at number 7. So we've been through the first 7. Yeah. That took a while. First 7, 3 more to go. The 8th element of mental performance that you should consider is focus and self-awareness. So here's an anecdote, right? Or specifically from a sport. If we look at a sport like Formula One, right? On a racetrack, they're on a lap, maybe 57 laps. You have to brake at a certain point. There's a left turn, there's a right turn. If you don't position yourself well, you won't get a good exit. You might fall behind. You won't be able to catch up to your opponents, right? And that is just focus personified. Literally nailing what you gotta do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 57 times or 71 times. It's like, whoa, that level of focus is outrageous. But the one thing it does is that level of focus happens to be a skill that the top performers can really pull on, right? And now if we bring that to consulting, or if we bring that to corporate, it's like, how much boost can you get from focusing on what you have to do, right? For example, you go to work, you're like, okay, cool, these are the 3 tasks I need to do. Send this email, do this proposal, finish off this Excel sheet. Now, as you go through the day, emails are coming in. You need to plan a social, there's this committee meeting, there's this, that, right? Your phone is beeping, there's people calling you, your Slack notifications are going off, right? And all these distractions just come in between you and your focus. And it's like, well, can you even get to task 1 or 2, right? And some days I really struggle. Like, I can decide to do something, right? And I only do it an hour later because 3 emails came. Someone wanted a video call on how to fix an issue, or I had to speak to someone else, right? And the ability to focus is so crucial because you have to be able to separate what you need to do versus what you can do later, right? And in a fast-paced world like us, it is really, really important, right? And focus, kind of like, you can link that to your ability to reset and your mental imagery, right? Because you focus on what you need to get out of the day, right? Where do I need to be at the end of the day? You have that mental image, so you stick to the plan, right? Your ability to reset. Sometimes I get to the office, the half day, I don't do anything I said I did. and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I still have my goals to do, right? And 12 counts, just take a mental reset, go grab lunch, go take a walk, break. And then when I come back, I have that mental image of where I need to be by the end of the day. And sometimes, we execute, and sometimes we're able to save the day. So focus is really important. And with that comes self-awareness, right? Knowing yourself. When are you at your best? When are you at your worst? When are you easily disturbed? When is your focus absolute, right? And just having that self-awareness is really important. And on the other side is self-reflection, where you go through your day, you're like, okay, cool, I was distracted for 3.5 hours, the first 3.5 hours of the day. How can I be better next time? Okay, cool, I'll check my phone. When I go to the office, my phone is on silent, for example, right? I only check my emails after 10 a.m., for example, right? You use those self-reflections to build better processes for your workflow, for your focus, right? And sometimes that's literally the difference between average and top class. Element number 9, this one I think is really tricky to get a hold of. It's something that I struggle with as well. Dedication, or to be more dramatic, unrelenting dedication, right? For you to be at the top of your game, you need that dedication, right? Whether it's sunny, whether it's raining, whether it's cold, whether you feel like it, and That's why sometimes your dedication has to be unrelenting or ruthless, if you prefer. You said you're gonna do it, so you have to be dedicated to do it, right? And there are a couple of elements of dedication, right? We have confidence, motivation, discipline, self-control, and all of these link to ensure that when you get the self-control right, when you get the discipline right, it flows through your motivation, and you're easily committed. Dedication needs to be linked, right, from the self-control through to the motivation, your confidence, which then transforms into your commitment or your dedication to your craft or your skill, right? And in a fast-paced world where we're bombarded with a lot of things happen, we're easily distracted. Some days are good, some days are bad. Just having a sense of dedication and what that North Star is really just something that can help, especially in the bad days or when the bad times are coming, like a sense of discipline. And I think that's something that has worked really well for me, just my discipline to say, okay, I want to do this, how can we make sure we do it consistently over a longer period of time, but there are days where I don't feel like doing what I said I was going to do. There are days where I want to snooze my alarm, there are days where I want to stay in bed a bit longer, but then that has a ripple effect on my day, right? And I either start my day later, or worst case is you don't stick to the deadlines at work, which then affects your workplace performance reviews, right? So dedication is literally all about bringing the discipline, the self-control, and the motivations, right? But those can be easily eroded, right? One, bad feedback or one bad comment from the client, your self-motivation leaves, which means your confidence tanks, which means your dedication just starts to erode, right? Because you're just like, what's the point? I put in this much effort, thought I was getting somewhere, but from the other side, it's like, oh no, you're so far off, right? And sometimes it can be painful, but just understanding, when you have that structure, when you have that process, when you understand that, okay, cool, that was one bad feedback, or that was one partially mild feedback. I've had 140 great days, and so because you're able to track your scoreboard, because you're able to focus on your process, you can put things into perspective and say, okay, cool, I'll take that, we'll try again another day, right? And so dedication literally just brings everything. And if you're able to do the first 8 steps correctly, you literally just find yourself more easily into your craft, more easily into your work, just getting performance that your effort deserves. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, putting in effort, because we understand we can get better. To close off on the dedication point is consistency and intensity. And I didn't really think there was much of a difference, or I didn't think intensity was a bad thing, and when I was doing some research, one of the people I was listening to said consistency over intensity, and I was like, oh, okay, and the idea is to say, rather be consistent than aim for intensity, because what happens is you can break down or you can burn out rather quickly, as opposed to when you consistently reach your goals, and that gives you longevity over time. So something to consider as you also find your North Star of dedication: consistency, intensity. Which matters to you, and how do you blend them without compromising your dedication? And we are almost at the end. One more element to go. And this is basically saying adapting your mental skills toolbox, right? What does this mean? Think about it. We have mentioned 9 steps. We've gone into practical detail. And the next thing is, some of them will stick for you, some of them won't stick for you, and that's okay. But you need to be able to understand which ones to draw on according to the situation that you find yourself in, right? Do you need to show more emotional intelligence? Do you need more discipline? Do you need to push through to be able to get more performance from your effort, right? Do you need to be a stronger leader? Do you need to be more effective? What culture are you trying to set? And so just making sure your emotional and your mental mindset is okay depends on which skills you can access in your mental skills toolbox, right? And this varies for different people. Like I said, I really like the ability to reset. I like the process over outcomes, using SMART to set better goals, and the idea is that this happens over time, this happens over practice. It's not simply watching this video and saying, oh yeah, I got that down, I know when to use number 6 or this, I know when to use process over outcome, I know when to reset. No, you have to get to the point where it's subconscious, right? If you're in a situation, you already know what you're going to call for. If you're in a bad situation, this is the issue, this is the skill. This is the issue, this is the skill, right? And that comes from practice. That comes from building consistently over time. And with that, becomes second nature. And you're able to pull and push, draw, put back in the drawer the skills that you need from the toolbox. And for me, in closing, that is where I want to get to with this video, to give you an idea of the tool sets that are at your disposal, and for you to then take that time to go and say, okay, look, these work for me. I tried these here. I spoke to people. They said these suit my personality, or these are the personality traits that I already do. So it's easier for me to align in this way, for example, right? And when you get that self-awareness going, that self-reflection, you're able to set a positive culture for yourself. You're able to set a positive leadership tone for yourself, for your team, for your organization. And at the end of the day, that is what mental performance is about, right? It's about making sure up here, you're sound, when you're performing at your best, when you're not, and how to draw yourself to a higher level. And to also make sure that the vessel that you are, that is also being taken care of. One can't work without the other. And so, from me, I like to say, take some time, think about the 10 elements we've spoken about. Watch this episode again in 2-3 weeks. Maybe there's a difficult moment at work coming up. Revisit this video. Be like, okay, what could I possibly learn? Go through the links in the bio to see what could work for you if you actually hear it from the experts themselves, right? Because I am only saying it how I see it, but you could get a different nugget from the same sentence that someone said, and that is also okay. But you have to be willing to put in the work, right? And that is what Championship Mode Collective is all about. We're here again. We did this again. Linking mental performance to your corporate workplace performance. I think this was really good. Drop your comments, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit me up on my LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. And yeah, let's keep the conversation going. But from me, thank you for the time. Thank you for spending your day with me. And I hope I can have a positive influence in your life. Stay in championship mode.